Hey, all right. So this is the August 28th, 2024 Cemetery Commissioners meeting. Starting, I have at 6:12.
Yep.
Okay,
That here too.
very good. So, so far we do not have any guests that I see showing up. So first thing on the agenda is review and approve the minutes of the July 17th meeting, which Susan sent out. And well, I guess first we'll take a motion to accept and then we'll discuss them.
Okay. I'll move to
Sure.
accept the minutes of the meeting as presented by Susan.
Okay, I'll second that. So now that's the way we really should do it. Any corrections, omissions, errors, or anything that anybody saw in there?
Well, there's a little piece that's red with a question mark in 8 new business, number 1.
Okay.
My notes weren't clear enough.
Okay. Oh, and is that who, yeah, I just see it blank is paid by the hour. Is it legal to pay this way through a revolving fund?
Yeah. So was
it would actually both be myself and Carl are paid by the hour.
okay. Okay, good. That's what I wondered.
Well, I haven't tried that out yet, but we did vote and it was approved at town meeting for me to work as a groundskeeper when necessary. Okay.
So should I just say the groundskeeping duties are paid by?
Yeah, that'd be good. Or the groundskeeper or groundkeepers are paid by the hour. Question, is it illegal to pay them this way, pay by the hour through the revolving fund, or even by the hour or per, what you would want to call it, because the fee to open the grave is, we're right now charging $100, open and close it. Is it legal to pay them per event or by the hour through the revolving fund? Because we're not sure if they have to do it, which way we have to do it.
Okay.
I think that would be closer. Because I'm not sure if we can just pay them, that's the fee that goes right to them, or do we have to say, all right, the closest amount is 4 hours or 4.5 hours to get that amount, to get the person to have that fee. If they weren't working by the hour, then you can do that. It's same as doing an inspection fee or something like that. But when they're being paid by the hour, I'm not sure if we can do that. And I have not talked to Gail yet to get a resolution on that.
So the question is how to pay it through the revolving fund? Right.
How to pay the person who's doing the opening, closing the grave through the revolving fund.
Yeah. Seems as though it ought to be fair to pay by the event.
Yeah, but there are these little weird, laws in municipal employment that make it a little difficult to do what should be the obvious sometimes.
Yep, understood.
And I think the same question, the next question I would be asking her to is, if we increase the fee, can part of it go to the expendable trust fund and part to the employee or not? So there are rules about just having a revolving fund and how the money is dispersed from that.
Okay.
So yeah, so 2 is good. I mean, 1, if you just want to put it how, question is how is the person doing the opening and closing in the schedule able to be paid through the revolving fund? Can it be a lump sum or does it have to be hourly? Is that clear as mud or?
No,
Okay.
it was quite clear. Thanks, Walter.
Okay, all right. Any other questions on the minutes?
I think that was the only question that I had.
I don't have any questions.
So we'll take a vote to approve the minutes as amended. And I guess I'll do that. I'll make a motion to approve the minutes as amended.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, any other further discussion? Okay, then, we'll do the roll call vote. Dina,
Aye.
Susan,
Aye.
and myself, Walter, aye. Okay. All right. Next is new burials and lot sales. I have had nothing. The only thing to bring up about that is we did receive the check from Ayers Hall for the German burial. It ended up going to town hall. And just to, yeah, I think it did have town hall, Shutesbury Cemetery or Shutesbury Town Hall, but eventually it got to us. So we did get that. And the only other thing about that is I am meeting with some people that bought a lot a while ago. Their last name is Brown, and I'm meeting with them Saturday just to look over placement of a stone that they want to have put in before they go and order it. And other than that, I don't think there's.
Is this a traditional lot or a green burial lot?
It's a traditional lot. Yeah, traditional burial. Yeah, it's a one plot lot.
Okay.
And so they're probably thinking of cremation. I think that's what they had planned on when they bought it. So it was several years ago. I'm going to say 3 or 4 years ago at least. I think that they bought it.
So this is just them getting ready to set a stone.
Yeah. So they called a while ago and asked about it, and yeah, I said, yeah, there's no problem with that, because they're going to do a flat stone that's flush to the ground.
Oh,
so
nice.
the only thing is, I said before, it's ready to be installed. I'd like to talk to you. I hadn't really looked at the size of the lot at that point, so I'd just like to talk to you and make sure that we all understand where it is that you want the stone to go, because it's a lot easier to put it in the right place the first time than move it around. So
exactly.
And I'm trying to think, I think if there was some inquiries about lots in an email. Yeah, there was one, let's see, from an Ed Smith. He says, we met a couple of times over the years. And yeah, he talked to you, didn't he, Dina?
Yeah, he talked to me, and I know Ed well.
Okay. Yeah.
And he's had all sorts of Shutesbury connections.
Right. Yeah, and so I guess I just, yeah.
He's interested in a plot in the green burial section.
Yeah. Yep. Okay. So, yeah, so I guess if we're all in agreement that he meets all the criteria, which I think he did, because he used to live here, he's got a lot of ties, Dean, and you know him and all that. So,
yeah,
I will give him a call back, or you can contact him back if you want, and just to let him know that yeah, there's no problem with that. We just have to meet so he can pick out a lot. So I can call him back.
You can call him back. I think it's more direct, since he's going to have to make a plan to meet with you. And thank you.
Yeah, I knew there was something there. So let me just pull that up. Ed Smith.
I have a question about burial practices, Walter, that you might be able to answer, because I'm noticing that there are kind of two types of people. There's people who want to walk away before the casket is lowered and really don't want to, or the urn, they just don't want to see any of that.
Yeah.
And there's people who want to either do the work themselves somehow, or definitely can't leave until the casket's lowered. And
Right.
I'm of the second sort. I find it really difficult to walk away before there's been some planting,
Right.
I
Yeah.
guess I want to say, right?
Some finalization. Yeah.
Yeah. Do you have a sense of like, is it 50-50, the split between what people
No, no,
or
not really. Most, to tell you the truth, a lot of the funerals I've been to, not only here in Shutesbury, but been involved with in other places, many times they, especially for full casket burials,
yeah.
everybody leaves, and then the vault company comes in and does their
I've
thing.
seen that's
And but I would say at least 90-95% of the funerals I've been to, that's the way it's been done.
right, but
Now, when it comes to cremation, it's been
it's
totally
different.
different. They've been all over the place.
But I think this is driven by the funeral directors
Directors,
because
most
it's
likely.
easier for them and
Yeah,
not by the families. And there are cemeteries I go to where the casket's almost always lowered, and it's because they have the equipment and the staff,
right.
right, to lower the casket. The grave isn't filled in, the vault's not done, all that is left for later,
They just
right?
lower it. Yeah,
But they lower it, and then if people want to, they can, move earth. So
yeah,
into the grave. So I just wondered what you notice. It's really that much. I'm
yeah. I think so. Now, it's funny
gonna
because
have
when you
to
look on TV, they always show them 99% of the time they show them lowering the
in the
vault or the
movies, in
casket down.
every
Yep. But in real life, since I can remember as a little kid going to funerals, I'd say more than 90% have been everybody walks away. The
I
only
will
one I've
tell you,
seen where they lowered them was the one that you were doing officiating a little while ago over in the newer section, not the green burial, but the newer section where we went in next to the forsythia. That's the first time that I've ever actually seen somebody in a full casket burial ask that the casket be lowered.
so
And like you say, I think that's just
I've got
the
to
way
tell
the
you,
industry is driven it.
it's an industry standard because in Jewish tradition, we always lower the casket.
Right. Yeah.
Every Jewish bear, there's no one leaves until that's done and there's been earth put into the grave. It's what we
Right.
do. And some
Yeah.
families will stay and fill the grave.
Right. Yeah.
It still needs to be finished off and tamped down and
Oh,
whatever.
right. Yeah.
But some families will stay and fill the grave. It's a
Yeah.
really interesting thing. And yeah, it's just customs. I'm
And I think a
with
lot
you.
of here it's driven by the industry and the scheduling because the funeral homes, ask them, well, I don't have the tools to do that. I don't have the wrench to do it. It's with the vault company who sets everything up, including the seats and the tents and all that. That's all the vault company's stuff. And so they do that. And, it's always after the family
I
leaves
tell people
because you never know when they're coming back. They try to get back there
right,
before the end of the funeral, but sometimes
they won't.
they don't. Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's an interesting thing. And I tell people to work it out with the funeral home ahead of time so
Right.
that
Oh yeah,
they know what
definitely.
to expect and the funeral home knows what the family wants. And
Yep.
it's
Oh
really
yeah. All that stuff really has to be worked out beforehand. Otherwise it's,
a mess.
you run into a thing where people get disappointed. Yeah.
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 And there's always so many, emotions are close to the surface.
Oh yeah.
So
And
what's our next thing on the agenda? Sorry
well,
for
I'm just looking to see if there was
Oh.
anything else for sales. No, there's somebody that wants us to participate in an end of life motivations survey. That was back in actually beginning of August. I was going to send that to you, Dina.
Yeah,
Figure there's
do. I'd
more.
love to see it.
Well, it's on the cemetery email. It's
Will
down.
you just send it to me anyway?
Yeah,
Since
yeah, I
so,
can do that.
thank you.
Yeah, I think
I'm
that's the
waiting.
last. I think that's it.
Cool.
I knew there was something else in the back of my head there.
We sure do
Yeah,
get cemetery junk mail.
yeah. There's that guy Mark Anthony that wants to sell us all kinds of software to run our cemeteries and all that at the cost of a couple $1,000s a year. And
Yeah, to do it.
I talked to him once and said, no, sorry, not for us. But
Well, not only that, but first we have to find out where the bodies are.
Yeah. Yeah. And then there is one, oh, there's a new one that just the other day, Citra Dewey, join us for Green Burial Trends. Oh, it's probably a seminar or something like that. Okay. Those are the only two that I see right now. All right, so I guess there's nothing else on new burials and lot sales. Next is groundkeepers update. Carl has been doing a wonderful job, I think. I met with him the other week because he had some questions on, what he should cut, what he shouldn't cut. So we walked pretty much the entire cemetery where he had some questions, and even walked some other areas and said, okay, yeah, this you can go ahead and do. This, well, this is selective cutting, just trimming back some of the bushes, like some of the forsythia, and there's some other, that are actually bushes that have grown into jungles and, hiding stones and all that. So he's going to selectively cut some of that stuff back. There's a lot of just, growth that's not supposed to be there that he's going and cleaning up. He's been, working at cleaning up over in the Luther Henry section, and out by the road. There's one maple tree there that is got some pretty nasty splits on both sides. It's outside the stone wall, between the stone wall and the road. So that would probably more fall under the tree warden. And to take care of that, I told him, yeah, that's too big for him. And he agreed. He wouldn't deal with it for the simple fact that it's gonna move. If you just cut it, it's gonna fall into the road. So that's one that I kind of talked to Steve about already. So he's gonna look at that and see, because it is becoming a hazard. I mean, I don't like to cut mature trees down when we don't have to, especially something that's a hardwood. But this thing is, I mean, it's split and rotted from the top to the bottom, right to the ground level. So it's going to be a hazard pretty soon. But other than that, he's been doing a good job at, now that the grass is not growing that quickly, he's been shifting his attention to, all the brush and all that's growing up, and taking care of all that stuff. So, and even in talking with Steve the other day, he said, he'd really like to see, and as I would too, behind the stone wall that's behind the hearse house, running up into the back, that's got all those small, stuff growing. He said, I'd like to really see that cleaned out and leaving like the 4 or 5 big trees there, so you can see the stone wall. I said, well, that was one of my goals too. So between Carl and Steve and myself, hopefully before fall, we'll get that cleaned up too. So he's doing actually a really good job, and very self-motivated, has had very few questions, but when he does, he's very quick to text me and say, hey, I got a question on this. Either, if we can answer it over a text, fine. If not, we'll meet and go down there and look at things. So he's been very good. So, and I can't say for sure, but he may possibly be buying a house in town eventually. So, it looks like he's going to be sticking around. So,
Good.
Yeah.
yep. So that'll be good. But does anybody have questions for him or of him that maybe I can answer? Okay. Very good. All right. So now we're on to the update on the ground penetrating radar and mapping project. Review the proposal and service agreement from CNM Subsurface. So just to give you a little background, if you guys have looked at that, he actually called tonight just around 5 o'clock. Wanted to know if I had, got his proposal and looked at it. I said, well, yeah, I did. I haven't called you back yet because we're having our meeting tonight and we're going to be discussing it. I said, I do know, I'm looking at it quickly. There's a few things that obviously some information got a little confused, that, we're not looking at doing ground penetrating radar through the entire south section. It's just certain areas that are in question. And somehow in the maps that in the stuff he got from Bob, he's got part of the south section labeled as the new section and only part of the newer section labeled as the new section, and a whole other section like towards the green burial section, all that isn't even marked out. So I was like, yeah, there's a few things that it needs some clarification on for you. And I did tell him why we were doing the ground penetrating radar, and that it was only on certain sections that are, questionable, because there's no record if there's anybody buried there or not. There's no stones or anything. There were some that were clearly marked vacant that we've been able to sell. These were marked unknown, so we haven't been able to do anything. Is, oh, okay. He says, well, that might affect how I priced it too. So and how many days he'll have to spend here doing it. Now, his company is from Texas.
I saw that.
He is 24 years old.
Oh,
Yeah. So far his work experience has been in all subsurface stuff. So he's been working with, I guess, surveyors and construction and all that
stuff. Yeah.
And he's kind of getting into the cemetery stuff. He says he has done some, including the mapping and all that, but this is a little newer to him. Now he would not. I said, "Are you yourself going to come all the way out from Texas? Or are you going to have that, a third party do that, subcontractor?" He said, "No, for that part." He says, "I will fly out from Texas." He says, "I want to see the area and learn this stuff firsthand, and maybe travel around a little bit and see some of the cemeteries and all that." He says, but then the person that Bob is looking at possibly, selling the business to, or him taking over the business from Bob, is the one that would be doing the actual mapping, the electronic mapping.
Oh,
he's working out right now a subcontractor contract agreement with that person for doing the actual mapping. So it would be
from Georgia, right? The second guy?
Yeah, the second guy's from Georgia, yeah. So, but whatever the price proposal that Tom Cunningham from C&M Subsurface, that would be the price we'd pay. We'd be hiring basically his company. He would be subcontracting from this other gentleman, or subcontracting to this other gentleman to do the actual mapping.
It would seem to me that would tend to be a more expensive process when you have more layers of people involved.
Yeah, probably. But I don't know if the guy who does the mapping from Georgia does the ground penetrating radar.
Oh.
That's something I still have yet to figure out. So I think they're all looking at kind of doing an agreement between the three of them, between Bob and Tom and this other guy, to kind of for them to absorb Bob's business, or the work.
Wow.
Yeah, it's a little confusing, but then you start realizing, well, if that guy's from Texas and the other guy's from Georgia, I guess there's not a lot of people that do this.
Well, and Bob was, traveling to Italy. I mean,
yeah,
for work.
Yep. So it's, he said that when I was talking with Tom, he did say he tried to keep the pricing the same that Bob had. He says at least within like $100 or so, but the fact that he possibly misunderstood and thinking he was going to be doing ground penetrating radar for the whole south section, he said that might change things a bit. Or he was only doing specific sections. Hopefully, meaning it'll cost less. But I don't think we can actually vote on the proposal till we get a finalized one, and he has all his contracts with the other other person that's going to be doing the measuring, the mapping and all that. So,
But we can tell him that we're interested in proceeding with a new
right.
proposal.
Yeah. As long, yeah, as soon as he can get things worked out with Bob and with the other gentleman. Did you have a name for the other gentleman, Susan, or not?
I don't remember. It was in Bob's email.
Okay, let's see. Let me pull it up.
All I remember is he's from Georgia.
Let me just let's get his. All right. Yeah, he said, did Tom Cunningham contact you regarding the cemetery project? If not, let me know because I have another source that I have trained. So he's trained him and been working with for the past 15 years. He is out of Georgia and we have been talking about merging companies.
Oh,
He didn't give a name, so.
Sounded to me from what Bob wrote as though this is somebody he's offering instead of Tom.
that's
Yeah,
what it
so
sounds like to me too.
yeah, what I'll do is I'll contact Bob. I think I'll be best to call him and talk to him.
Yeah.
Because rather than emailing back and forth, that
That
tends to
makes
be
sense to me.
Yeah.
and see just who he prefers. If this other gentleman that he's trained does both the ground penetrating radar and the mapping, or just the mapping, and the other guy does just the ground penetrating radar. Yeah, I don't know, because he seems to be working with both of them. Because let's see, the one that Tom sent his email. Let me go back to that one. Oh, something that's not in this email. He sent that one straight to my personal email, which was kind of weird. Um,
Are you okay? You're not sure. My dog had most of her teeth pulled last week,
Oh dear.
ooh.
and she's still looking a little disconcerted.
Well, no, poor baby.
She
What
wants
did
to
you do
sing.
to me?
Yeah.
So how is she eating? What is she eating? Really
She eats
soft?
soft food. She's fine with soft food. She's not, I don't think she's drinking water, like I realized yesterday. Like I haven't seen her drinking. And she's, I think because her mouth and tongue feel weird and she
Oh,
doesn't know what to do with, like, because your teeth hold your tongue in, you
Mm,
know,
yeah.
and so I think she's not sure how to drink.
Well, if she's mostly eating soft food, though, I think it tends to be more liquid. The cats that I have that mostly eat soft food don't do much water drinking.
Oh, that's interesting. That's good to know. Well, maybe. I don't know.
all right, that's the first one he sent.
I've never caused her pain before.
Oh, that's hard.
I mean, I took her to the vet. I left her there, which has never happened. And,
Oh,
she's 11 years old. She's never been left at the vet. So
oh my,
I left her there, and then she had a nap and woke up without any teeth, and it hurt.
sure.
Mm,
Right.
yeah.
And as many times as I tried to explain to her ahead of time what might be happening, she never understood.
You didn't understand. Yeah, that's really too bad about vet trips. You can't. They don't understand.
They don't.
No.
They don't. And especially I mean, yeah.
So this is Tom's first email. It says, howdy, Walter. I hope this message finds you well. My name is Thomas Cunningham. I am reaching out because Bob Perry gave me your contact information regarding the scanning and mapping services requested at West Cemetery. I understand that you are seeking both GPR, ground penetrating radar, and mapping services. While I am currently not up to speed for cemetery mapping, I am in the process of making an agreement with another company owner who has about 20 years of experience in this field and has previously worked with Bob. Once I get this contract finalized, I will let you know. and we'll keep you updated on the progress, and we will provide you with a formal proposal early next week for your records. In the meantime, if you have any questions or need further information, please don't hesitate to contact me, and feel free to call my personal cell. So, yeah, I think it would be better to contact Bob and see, because he seems like he's contacted both people, but is it because one does one and one does the other, or
Right.
is
Yeah,
he kind of just doing this hoping he'll find somebody to do it, and now he's got, instead of one person, he's got two people willing to do the work? So I think that is what I should do, is contact Bob himself and see what's
So,
going on.
proposal from Tom that had the money that quoted
Yeah.
costs and had the funny map, the inaccurate, that came later.
Yes, he introduced himself first and said he was in the process of doing this. Then, like, the next week, he sent me the actual proposal that I sent you guys.
So at that point, he had contacted the other guy from Georgia, presumably.
Yeah. I guess he's been in from the beginning. He's been in contact with him and working on an agreement. So, yeah, I'm not sure.
Yeah, sure is weird.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like I said, I like Bob and all that, but he sometimes got confused even when we were talking to him. So
right.
it may be that there's a little bit of this stuff going on. I don't know.
Oh,
But we'll get an answer. But we definitely can't make any decision formally till we find out exactly what's going on. Are we going to receive a proposal from this other company to do both parts? Are they just subcontracting with C&M Subsurface to do work with them? I don't know. I really don't know, because you're only getting one side of the story at this point. So, and you don't know this C&M Subsurface, because he's a young guy, maybe a go-getter, he might be jumping the gun a little bit too. So
Yep.
We'll
wondering about travel costs, because the travel costs don't seem to be that high. Flying.
Yeah, and I'm not sure if he's doing that just to try to get his foot in the door, or what, because Bob's was only coming from New Hampshire, and both of these guys are coming from Texas and Georgia. Yeah. I don't see how you could not have a significantly higher travel cost.
Yeah,
unless they figured out a way to exactly like you were saying, to take it as an expense, and complicated.
Just to get their foot in the door. I don't know. It's an expensive way to get your foot in the door, but sometimes you got to do that if you're looking to get into a whole new market in a different area. So
that's true.
Huh.
Well, if there are so few of them with these skills, and Bob it's getting towards the end of his career, it looks like.
Yep.
Then they would both probably really be interested in expanding up here.
Yeah. Yep. I think so.
Yeah, there's a lot of old cemeteries up here.
Yep. And if these guys can, I think even Tom was saying he would put it into doing some other stuff. So it would be, one trip doing multiple different things, either visits or whatever. But he definitely wanted to come up and just see the area and get more familiar with everything up here. So
did you get the sense that he was thinking of a trip to come up and really check things out, and then a later trip to do the work?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I think, well, maybe not. He had said that, but then we got talking about timeline, and I said, while we're not in a super rush, it would be kind of nice to get it done before wintertime. He said, I'd like to get it done before wintertime also. So I'm not sure if he would, I think he's talking more like he'd come up to do the work, and while he was here, explore other possibilities.
Right.
But he certainly would need to get the information right about what.
Oh, yes. Yeah. So what I told him, I was going to send him copies, the electronic copies that we have of the maps. Same thing I sent Bob. with some explanation and a little explanation behind the the problems we had and why we want to have the mapping, because it doesn't really meet all the specifications of the map, where it says the road is 9 feet wide, it could be 11 feet wide, or where the lots are supposed to be 36, it might be 42. So that's that a little bit of historical background to them as to why we're doing this stuff.
Yeah, sounds good.
Okay. So yeah, I will now contact Bob and then call Tom back and kind of send him this information. We'll see where it goes from there.
Makes sense.
Hopefully we get something.
Maybe contact the Georgia guy, depending on what Bob tells you.
Yeah, let's see if I can get some contact information from him, because I have nothing other than it's this guy and he's from Georgia. He's been doing it 20 years. That's all I have. Don't even have a company name or anything yet. So I think the very first thing I got to do is call Bob.
Oh, Bob.
Okay. Anything else on that? Okay, moving on to gravestone restoration project update. I have not seen Tamara. I have not heard anything from her. So I guess that's another person I got to call and find out what's going on. She hasn't sent the bill. She hasn't been around as far as I know. So
Maybe she's
Wow,
still
we have
in Mexico or something. It's my.
hold on. Dina, go first. We'll talk at the same time.
I vaguely remember she was heading off for some project in New Mexico.
Yeah, she was heading off for some big project in Chicago.
Uh-huh.
And I hadn't heard from her since then.
Okay.
So she never submitted a bill for what she did?
She submitted a bill for the work she had done up to that point.
Okay.
So it was like a little over half of the work. So we did pay her. Because she did say something about this other project was going to take a while, and the money flow issues with that project taking as long as it was going to might be a problem. That's why she wanted to know if she could get paid for the work she'd done already. So that's what we did. And I believe it was somewhere around $6,000 or so.
Something like that. Must.
6,000, 6,800.
Huh.
Probably in the minutes.
Yep. Or I could
Don't worry about it.
look it up. Okay. I was gonna say I could look it up on the
I mean,
stuff.
it sounds like she's probably still too busy with the Chicago project.
Yeah. Yep. So I will give her a call and see where
Thank
she
you.
is. All right. Next on the agenda was the update on the meeting with the Pelham Cemetery Commission. And Susan, you're gonna have to take most of this one, because that night I totally spaced out and didn't remember that I had the meeting till about 11 o'clock that night. A little late to meet him at 6.
It was, yeah. Yeah, I was surprised to be the only one meeting them, but I'm sort of glad that I was there.
Oh, I'm extremely glad you were there.
So glad you were there.
Yeah.
And I never even saw the email. So we.
Oh, and I have talked to them afterwards, but I'll let Susan, kind of pick up what happened during that meeting.
Well, when we actually finally made contact, which took a little while, we walked up to see the green burials. They were interested in the green burial section. And there are the 3 guys. Only one of them is basically brand new. The one, Scott, had been on the committee. I think he's in his 2nd or possibly even 3rd term on the committee.
Yes. Yeah. I found that out later on. So
he was the secretary. But Buzzy was the chair. Is that right?
Yeah. Buzzy was the chair, and Buzzy did about 99% of all the actual work.
Yeah. Sort of the
caretaking and everything.
But just the way you do. And so, there was a lot that Buzzy did that he didn't really know about. And the one thing that I remember him being very concerned about, he wanted to know what happened if the ground was frozen. So I told him that my impression was that I was told him that this is something that you dealt with, Walter, so that I see that I was giving correct information, but my impression was that Clark, if the frost wasn't too deep yet, Clark had the ability to warm up the ground.
Yeah, usually what they did, they didn't so much warm up the ground, but they would use a saw to cut the first part of it so you get a clean edge and then dig. So if it's much more than 4 inches, they don't like doing it. They, they could probably do maybe up to 6 inches of frost, but anything past that, then they really don't like doing it because it's hard and it makes a mess, and it's really tough to backfill afterwards because the dirt freezes in chunks and all that. So they really don't like doing it. And in that case, what usually happens is the funeral homes will, basically put the body in cold storage.
Yeah, I figured that's what happened. I wasn't sure, but that made sense. And they agreed that made sense.
I have other possibilities
Yeah.
as solutions to this. One is a fire on top of the grave area the night before can make a really big difference when digging happens. The other is that if a family anticipates that they'll have a burial over the winter, and sometimes sometimes you don't know, you can place bales of hay over the plot. It will
It
keep
keeps
the
the
ground
frost from
freezing there.
getting in. Yeah.
Yeah, and so there are things, as cemetery commissioners that we can just have in our minds, and there are also ground heaters that a family can, or the funeral directors can rent, like from Taylor Rental, and they'll come up with the ground heater again before they dig to make it less complicated.
Well, it's too bad that you weren't there to tell them, because I didn't do anything except I had the option of the funeral director and cold storage.
Right.
Yeah. So, really, I mean, there was some general chatter, but I don't remember, and they stayed a while. So we were just sort of talking cemeteries, and I guess they may have asked how we did things, but again, it was very earth-shaking.
Apparently they weren't. Oh, go ahead, Dina.
There's
Sorry.
a lot of people who get cremated in the winter who would get buried if it was any other time of year.
Right. Yeah,
Well,
that does happen too.
Yeah, I believe that they suggested that as an option, which I'm sure it has happened for them.
Right. And I know, they may be more familiar with, some of the stuff with the cemetery, because like I said, I was under the impression that they were all fairly new, but then I happened to run into Buzzy on Saturday, and we talked about it, and he said, no, they've been on some of them have been on for a while. Buzzy and them, and sometimes the town probably didn't see eye to eye towards the end. So he was getting off, and Buzzy's son had actually taken over doing the caretaking.
Yeah.
But he just passed away suddenly with,
Oh, yeah.
It was a very sudden thing. He wasn't sick or anything. He had been talking to Buzzy the night before. He was over at his house. He said, "Oh, I gotta go to work early in the morning, so I'm gonna call it an evening." Went home and never woke up. So then Buzzy has now started doing the caretaking again till they can actually find somebody to do it. So, things are a little topsy turvy in that aspect.
They were telling me about that. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's so complicated.
It is. Yeah. So, from your conversation with them, do you have a sense? I mean,
I kind of asked him if you answered most of his questions. He said, "Well, yeah." He says, "Yeah, we may have some other questions." I said, "Well, would you like to meet again? Would you like to come to one of our meetings or whatever?" And well, we've got to I'll let you know after we have our next meeting. I don't think I have any questions right now, and he kind of left it at that. So.
Yeah, I think my impression was the kind of information he was seeking, he could get it easily by emailing or calling you, Walter.
Right. Okay. Yeah. So I'm just at this point, after talking to him, I'm just waiting to hear back from him. The ball's back in his court. If he has questions, I'll do my best to answer them. But I-
Be able to answer them, yeah. How long have you been doing this, Walter? Not as long as Buzzy, but quite a while.
No, not as long as Buzzy, that's for sure. Well, when I joined the cemetery commission, the other two members at the time were my mother and Judy Makepeace.
Oh,
Oh,
And I was actually taking the place of John Bell.
oh,
So that was a while ago, I guess.
yeah.
gosh, I haven't
Yep.
even heard.
Of course,
that.
I came into it not knowing anything about it and having to kind of learn on the fly and just figure things out, and just kind of experience it. And, got to met a lot of different funeral directors and all that stuff over the years. So, learn different things from them and all, and yeah, and just kind of went with the flow. Not definitely not an expert in it, but just how things were done historically as much as I could find out, and just kind of go along from there. So it's more on the job training, I guess. Self-taught on the job training. So I don't know if I'm doing it right or not, but we seem to be getting by.
I think we're getting by fine.
Yeah. Okay. Next I have on the agenda was cremational burial worksheet and fee schedule, which we kind of touched last month, realizing that, especially when it comes to cremations and people are running their own thing, it's can get a little confusing. I again haven't taken time to really look over it and say, these are the specific questions, but I know Dina, you had some pretty good suggestions, even in the, in the minutes. Will there be a church service? When it's going to be? Will there be a graveside service? When? How long? What does the family want to do afterwards? Do they want to partially fill the grave? They just want to walk away. Do they want to lower the urn in and leave it at that? Do they want to put dirt in? So I think we need to kind of formalize that, or if we have any other question or suggestions as questions we should ask.
Those are kind of basic, right?
Yeah.
How do you want
Yep.
this to go is kind of basic. And
I think this wouldn't be a bad thing to even have for when it's going to be a funeral director's running things. Granted, we usually things are more organized and planned ahead, but not always.
not always
No,
depends.
so
Yeah.
maybe it wouldn't be, it'd be a bad idea to have this and be able to give to the funeral directors too.
Yeah, I think it's a service
Yep.
to provide a communication tool.
Yeah. And not only is it a service to the family members and all that, it turns out it's a service to us and it makes our job easier too.
Yeah.
So I think it's
So we're not guessing.
good for everyone, because many people, this is the first time they're doing it. They're not sure what should be done. They're going by what the funeral director tells them. Although sometimes the funeral director will give them stuff and then they really don't know what they should do. And yeah, sometimes things get really dropped, and especially if they're trying to do it themselves, then a lot of things get dropped. So a lot of questions. All right, so I can work on that unless if somebody has any thoughts of any other questions or suggestions to incorporate with it, I can put a draft together for our next meeting, and we can hash it out and fine tune it and try to come up with something.
Sounds great.
Sounds good.
Okay. All right, and at the same time, I'll hopefully have talked to Gail about the fee schedule, or how we can do things. And how do you guys feel about the fee schedule for cremational burials? I mean, right now it stands at $100, and that usually goes to the person doing it. But should we look at that as a service from the cemetery to say, we increase it a little bit, and if we can legally do it, take some of that money and put it into the expendable trust fund for, buying tools and things we need for doing that job or anything else like that? How do you guys feel about it?
Do we have any way of finding out what other cemeteries charge?
Yeah, and actually we can, I'm sure we can ask them, but
So
I've
the
had some people say even a cremational burial, it's like $800 or something like that.
Oh, wow.
Oh, you wouldn't believe. So it's really up to the cemeteries what they charge to open a grave. And and they have all sorts of interesting restrictions around it. And it is, Walter's not wrong. Sometimes it's as much as $800. It was so much in the cemetery in Brockton where my mother's husband has a stone because he was going to be buried with his brother that we snuck his ashes in and dug them into the ground there by the stone because we couldn't with our little trowels. It was one of those very funny moments with my mother, and we were laughing so hard we were crying. But she wanted to have him with his brother, and it was the only none of us had. It was I think $800. None of us had the money. I was so shocked.
Yeah, and then when you get into full burials, some cemeteries have their own equipment and they charge for opening and closing, and it's in the thousands of dollars.
Yeah, no, this is.
I think Clark's is considerable. Considering what other places charge, Clark's is reasonable at, I don't know, they're $800, $900, $1,000, whatever it is.
But that is reasonable, and it's a complicated thing digging in a cemetery, and people have asked me, why is it so much money? And I said, because it's tricky, not for the cremation burials, which it's really very simple digging, but for full body burials in a very full cemetery, that's tricky bringing in equipment, that's appropriate for where the place is and the whole thing. So, I tell people it's an art. Burial is an art.
Yeah.
But I think that I think it makes sense for us to have a small fee. I just think it should be modest. I don't really care what other places do.
Right. Yeah.
Is that okay? See, you can tell I'm still waking up from my nap.
Yeah, and so what I can do is when I'm talking to Gail, I'll ask her what the legalities are on doing that. If we increase it to $150 or $200, can half of that go into the expendable trust fund and the other part go, so much go to the person doing the work for their time doing it, or not? It's no sense in creating the fee schedule if we can't utilize the money to do it.
Yeah.
How long does it take you ordinarily to dig a grave for a cremain grave?
Usually start to finish. It's usually about an hour and a half. And then you have to wait around for them to do the service and then come back. And, if they want to have some dirt there, then you have to leave, a wheelbarrow or something with some dirt. Otherwise I take it all away, so there's no piles of dirt or anything there. And then afterwards, come back, fill it in, put the sod back in, rake it up, clean it up so it looks like there wasn't anything done there. And that can take just as long or longer. So, easily the actual work part can be 2.5 hours. But then you're kind of tied up waiting for them to do their service and all that too.
Right.
I mean, it took you about 8 hours with the Germans.
Yeah, that one was just miscommunication after miscommunication. So, I started at 8 in the morning or 8:30 in the morning, and I think I finally finished around, I don't know, 3:30, 4 o'clock in the afternoon.
Wow.
I mean, that is the situation, and paid by the hour.
Yeah, that's the situation that made me say, this isn't working. And so we got to look at it doing it a little bit different. So
yeah,
I agree.
And so I will do my best to come up with a draft for that for the next meeting. And also I've talked to Gail about when, what we can do with the fees and how that can be spent and out of that revolving fund and all that too, so.
Thank you.
All right. Ooh, what's this? Other unfinished business? Anybody have anything?
I don't.
No?
Okay, so the only thing under that I could come up with under new business was that I can send you that email, Dina, about let's see. Oh, close this one out. Sorry.
About Ed. No, you were gonna
Ye-
call Ed.
Yeah, I'm gonna call Ed, but there was somebody wanted our information about a survey.
Oh, right, you're gonna send me that and I'll look it over.
Something about death, but I don't, it was an odd question. It sounded.
Yeah.
There's a lot of marketing happening in death care right now. So people
Yeah.
are doing surveys to find out where they can target for making money or something. I don't know. You never know what people's actual intents are with this. There's also all sorts of research stuff that's happening that's new. And then there's, groups at places, student groups at places like MIT who are developing phone apps for grief.
Here it is. Okay, here it is. It's
Oh,
this was
it's
kind of
so
long.
funny.
It said Dear Dear West Cemetery, Massachusetts.
AI generated text.
Yep.
Oh,
My name is Emma Shenton. I am a graduate student at Bangor University in Wales.
Wales.
So sounds like this is in Europe. I mean, as part of my MSc in environmental forestry, I am conducting research on motivations behind choosing green end-of-life options
I
such as
totally
natural
want
burials.
to answer her questions. Please send it to me. Not only
Yeah.
that, I have other people to send it to, and she'll be
Okay.
delighted.
Yeah, and there's a survey link.
Dear
So
West
I'm going to
Cemetery.
right now.
I wonder
Oh,
how
no, not reply, not reply. Forward,
Oh, that's
forward.
at Bangor in Wales.
That's really interesting that she's sending to the States.
There's more green burial activity here. There's a lot. It's burgeoning. So my guess is she sent it to the States and to Canada. Yeah, I'll be curious to find out in my community who else has heard from her.
Yeah, I just sent that to you now, so it
Thank
should be
you.
hopefully showing up somewhat soon.
All the fun.
Yeah, it was kind of funny too that she's got it in environmental forestry, but
Yeah. But there's a lot of stuff in forestry and green burial. There's
yeah.
a lot of overlap.
Yeah,
So
yeah, your participation in this research offers valuable benefits. I will share the findings of my research with your organization, providing insights into client motivations and preferences for green end-of-life options across the United States.
there we
By
go.
understanding these motivations, your organization may gain new insights about how to cater to client needs and contribute to the growth of the green end-of-life industry.
Industry, there you go.
Industry, yep. Sales, money.
But yeah, so there, as I understand, which everybody I'm sure knows, that because there's so many ashes left over, then they go into forestry.
Hmm.
You mean from cremation?
No, not from cremation, from organic reduction.
Oh, well, that's a whole different thing. I mean, it's not ashes, it's compost, it's
Yeah,
soil.
yeah, basically, yes.
But it's a full cubic yard of soil
Well,
per
yeah,
body. which is a pickup truck full.
Yeah, so it's really not, you can't really use it in your own garden, but if you've
You,
got,
no, you could.
well,
People
the
do. People do, and you can
whole amount?
if you want to.
Okay,
If you wanted to have it, I mean, it's a
Little-
lot to transport.
yeah,
But so what they've been doing is, you know, some people take a certain amount, some people take none, and they've been doing these land reclamation, you know, after land has either been clear cut because they're out in the Northwest, or there've been big fires and they need soil. But I have such I think not all of, some of the environmental benefits of natural organic reduction, which I love the idea of. I'm not poo-pooing on it in any way, but some of the environmental benefits are kind of pie in the sky. Because nobody is evaluating it or putting into the numbers I've talked about this before, but the production, the alfalfa and straw and wood chips that go into the bin with the body
yeah,
all need to be produced, processed, and transported to their facility.
yeah,
You're not adding that to the,
environmental cost.
yeah.
I just sent actually both of you, there's, the other thing was, there's it's a seminar or whatever on green burial trends, how tech shapes natural burials. It's a webinar that's, I think it's a webinar. Yeah, webinar. It's tomorrow though at 11 a.m. So I just sent it in case you're interested. The link is in that. That was the other thing I was remembering that came across the emails there. So all right. No, any new business or anything unanticipated? All right, then. Next is setting the date for the next meeting.
Oh, all the fun.
And I want to thank you all for changing the date of this meeting.
Oh, that's all right.
Yeah,
It,
it's not a
it worked out
problem.
well. So
Not a problem.
hey, if we can be flexible for my incompetence of not posting the meetings right, we can be flexible to allow you to have, you know, other things going on, the visitors and all that. So let's
October
see.
15th?
August. Yes, it would normally be the 18th, September 18th.
Oh, September. I'm like just skipping right over September.
It's going quick enough. Jeez.
It is. I'm free that day.
Yeah,
Same
Okay.
time, 6 p.m. Guys,
I
thanks.
September.
something soon after 7, but that should be doable.
Okay.
Okay. So September 18th, 6 o'clock.
Yep, sounds good.
All right. Anything else? Okay, hearing nothing. Motion for adjournment.
So move.
Seconded.
All right. Any discussion? Probably not. Okay, so all in favor, Dina,
Aye.
Susan,
Aye.
and I will say aye also, and therefore this meeting has come to an end. So I am going to stop the recording.
Woo.
It's 7:15 I get.
Yeah, I got 7:15 also. Yep.